4 years. So talk to them, try to get their stock up, and enjoy them while you have them. In the words of the Dolan fan.
216-575-0403 is the number to call. Well, even Paul didn't know this was going to happen. You can also.
Is this distracting? Is this distracting right now?
No, it looks good. It's about your height. It looks good. You can email us during the show at real-les-levine@gmail.com. All right, Adam Schefter now claims the Browns haven't had Odell trade discussions. He cited that on Twitter. What do you think about all this? Malusis, the fan, just pops up and says he's got a source. He doesn't have to account for himself if he's wrong.
Sure. I actually think the Browns aren't doing their job if they're not at least seeing what's available.
Sure.
Look, he's had 3 straight disappointing years. The Odell Beckham experience has been disappointing 3 straight times. Now, we can discuss why, and we can talk about Eli Manning kind of at the end of the ropes. We can talk about coaching, whether it was Shermer in New York or what happened last year with the disaster with Freddie Kitchens. But either way, it hasn't worked. The experience hasn't been great. The thing is, the Browns are not going to get value for an Odell Beckham unless there's another team that would be willing to trade for him to sell tickets. Outside of that, I think you're stuck with him, but it can be a good situation. I still think if he's healthy this year, he's worth having for at least 1 more year to see, because Jarvis Landry is going to be good to go. You just signed a pretty good tight end. I still think, even though it's $11 million and one of the higher contracts for tight ends, I still think it's a good signing, and it works with the type of personnel packages that Stefanski's going to put together. So I think it's a good move to explore 1 more year with the 2 of those guys.
Adam Schefter says there has not been any off-season discussions about Odell Beckham, and that is the truth, according to a team source. I assume that's a Cleveland team source. So Marc-Malusis, he's sticking by his claim that the Odell trade has been discussed with the Vikings. Well, listen, you got Stefanski, who comes from the Vikings. He talks to people. That's not unusual. Anyway, Malusis of the fan says, he says, that's what I reported. What I reported did happen. I have not blanked. I contacted my source after I reported it, and his response was, well, hopefully you didn't kill the deal. It's, by the way, do you think that Paul DePodesta is going to come out and say, oh, yeah, we've had discussions about trades with the Minnesota Vikings? Nobody's going to say. First of all, about starting 2-3 weeks ago, Anthony, I don't believe anything you hear from anybody.
True. There's a reason they call this and part of the free agency period. They call it silly season. But if you watched the Michael Jordan documentary, the first 2 episodes, which I'm sure we'll get into at some point, Jerry Krause was highly criticized for getting up there on the podium and saying, yeah, we've had discussions about trading Scottie Pippen. And they did this after they had won 5 titles, and he got crushed for it. You're not, in this day and age, going to admit to any of that. Look, if teams call, there's nothing stopping other teams from calling. And if another team was willing to offer a first, or say a Trent Williams or a dominant pass rusher, hey, you've got to at least explore it, don't you? Don't you, Les? You're not doing your job if you're not.
No, you've got to, and sometimes it's the agent who's popping that gem out there. It could come from anywhere.
Sure.
But you're right. If the phone rings, you've got to answer it and you got to respond.
Do you think in your heart of hearts, if we were privy to the short list of teams that Odell Beckham wanted to be moved to, where do you think Cleveland would have been on it? Probably not on it at all. Now, that doesn't mean he's unhappy. We don't know. We don't know what's in his heart. I mean, the first chance he gets, he leaves Cleveland. He's one of those guys. He's a jet setter. He likes to travel the globe. He came to the first day, I think, of OTAs last year, and then we didn't see him again. We didn't see much of him.
Based on what we saw from him last year and heard from him, do you think there's any team out there that he would have been satisfied with? Both for the location of the city, the kind of city it is, and the kind of football team they are.
Yeah, maybe if there was a team in the Maldives, that's about it. I don't know. You just don't know. He's very temperamental. I think if they win, that's the pressure that's put on any organization that has a player with the character, with the profile of Odell. You got to win. And if they start out 0-2, 0-3, and he's not getting touches, yeah, you're going to hear about it.
Yeah, that's true. But he didn't really cause any bad trouble, just little pinpricks.
I called it death by 1,000 cuts last year. It was all little things that added. And when you start out 2-6, and I know they ended up winning 4 or 5 after that, but when you start out 2-6, I think it's really hard for guys like him to accept losing and also not producing. I mean, there were 25 receivers last year that produced more than Odell, and he was a non-threat in the red zone. They could not make things happen when they got down there. And, Jarvis Landry, I thought, had a much better season, even though the numbers are very similar. I thought that in that offense last year, they forced the ball to him, and it led to a lot of mistakes by that offense.